Hi there. Hey, it's CJ Miller. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana, just across the Red River from beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana, in Northwest Louisiana. Come check us out. We'd love to have you. Uh, what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about this bread dough that I'm working on. I made some bread the other day, and so this is, I kind of wanted to show a little bit. I don't know if I got around to doing it. See how this texture is? And you can start seeing some of the bubbles underneath, some of the rise underneath. This is kind of what we want in a bread dough. I don't know if I'm going to put these in the loaf pan or if I'm going to lay them out on a cookie sheet and kind of do them artisan style. And I may do that. I may just kind of like lay them out on this flour foil here and put them on a cookie sheet. And I may see what happens there. Okay, so I'm not doing any sort of dessert bread. I will tell you that the recipe I'm using this time, I varied it a little bit from the last time, just because, I can do that. If I have certain ingredients, I can do that. So I did about 3 cups of the self-rising flour. That's about one of these loaves, by the way. Put it in a stainless steel bowl, a large one. Added about a tablespoon and a half to 2 tablespoons of baking powder. I love to back that self-rising flour up whenever I'm doing some baking with a little bit of baking powder just to back it up. And some people would say that's a double leavening because you're adding another product that will help leaven the bread, but it's really the same. It's the same power behind the same leavening power that's in baking powder is in self-rising flour. It just kind of gives it a little bit of a boost, and I don't do it so much so that it affects the taste because what I was using for moisture. Oh, but here's the second leavening. The truly second leavening is I took about 2 tablespoons of quick rise yeast, and I put in there because I like to use quick rise yeast rather than because I can get away with like one really good rise, and maybe you sacrifice a little bit of the rising power in a quick rise yeast versus a dry yeast that you actually activate with a little bit of warm water and let it sit in warm water for about 5 or 10 minutes and then add it. It's a little bit, that method is a little bit more temperamental. I could do it. I've done it, but I don't work at a restaurant. Why the hell, why take the hard road, or you could take a little bit of an easier road once in a while. It won't sacrifice that much. Anyway, so what I did was I took those ingredients, and what I used was probably to moisten it until I got it where I wanted. Where the original dough, I wanted it wet. And this was a very wet dough when I started. This looks almost dry. It's the same dough basically, but I used probably about half a cup of milk. Now the milk was great. When the milk it's still good, but you've had it for a couple of days and it's like, okay, I can drink it and everything like that, but it hasn't gone over, but you can tell that it's maybe, a couple of days open, been open a couple of days, that kind of thing. Because I don't really drink a lot of milk anyway. I use non-dairy creamer and stuff like that. But yeah, so, well, I made some scalloped potatoes, and I had to use some milk in the recipe. And that was some time ago. So anyway, yeah, so this milk was still good, but it was I didn't feel like drinking it. And if I kept it much longer, it wasn't gonna be good. That's a really good place for this milk. That's what you can use to milk when it's really good. But you've had it for a couple of days, and maybe you don't really feel like drinking it anymore, but you can still use it in a recipe, you know. Or if you had some buttermilk, it would work great with this bread too. Or if you had some sour cream, if you just wanted to skip the milk and use sour cream or creme fraiche, you know. But this was whole milk, and I put about half a cup of that milk that I've had for a couple of days, that it was like, yeah, I don't really drink it, you know, and I certainly don't drink it if it's not like, you know, very, very, like, I don't drink milk myself if it's like the first, if I bring it home from the store and I pop it open, and if I drink it, that's great. But if I don't finish it that first day, I do other things with it other than drink it. I'm just funny that way. But so, and then if I needed, and I did, just a touch more moisture, what I had was some warm water, some very warm water, just slightly warmer than a room temperature, that I added, and that warmth helped the rising process also. But basically what I did after that was I covered it, I put it in my oven, I set it to bake to 200, so I let my oven start from oven temperature 0 to warm up to 200. Then I took it out to set it, and I let it rise for probably about an hour, give or take-ish. It was just a little over, actually, an hour. I had a timer set for 2 hours and 10 minutes, and this was it was just over an hour on my timer. So you know, left. So it was, you know, somewhere between an hour and 10 minutes, you know. But anyway, I took it, put it on this foil. I don't shy away from using flour when I'm kneading. And all I did was I took the dough and rolled it till I got just a touch of the skin that I wanted to get here. What you don't want to do is you don't want to overly handle your dough. You don't want to overly handle your dough. At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to cut some nodules to help with the rising process. Some of this, like I said, some of this dough on the inside would get trapped under the weight, and to release some of that and to promote further rising, I'm going to put the pause on. I'll come back. All right, so from cutting into these nodules into it, these little, I just did 3 lines across, and either way, I could tell there was some air and some rising inside and everything that was happening. That was great. So I'm gonna stop this timer. I'm gonna set another timer. Let's see, about an hour and 10 minutes. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna look at this at about an hour and 10 minutes. But I can already see, just from slicing, that it's going to go really, really well. This is looking and doing what I want it to do. You can see how wet this dough was at the onset, you know, but we want these layers, you know. What we're going to do is we're going to let this rise, and then, like I said, artisan bread style, I'm going to take it, put it on a cookie sheet. I'm just going to take this foil just as it is and put it on my cookie sheet, and then put it in the oven to finish it. But I'm going to, like, maybe, I don't know. I want to be able to, like, pause this video, and yeah, I can do that. I'm going to pause the video, and then I'll come back in a little bit and see how well it's risen in about an hour. See if I can't resist messing with my phone. If I get a phone call or something, it's like, screw it, you know, it'll interrupt the video. But let's see what can happen. All right, so at this point, what I've done is, and it's been about maybe 10 minutes, I came back over and I reformed the dough. Basically, one of the slices revealed to me that there was a spot in the dough that was a little bit too dry, and what I needed to do was take that dry bit of flour and move it around in the dough. It was in this one right here. Uh, so I just kind of took them out, took it up, picked it up as it was, and reformed them. In doing so, you lose a little bit of the volume, but I set it back, and it's still going to rise. It's going to rise back up, so that's great. I'm not too worried about that. Even I'm already seeing some pockets form on the outside, and when that happens, we're going to get some rising even going on just in the last few minutes. Okay, so I went ahead and I added 4 ingredients: oregano, tarragon, garlic powder, and onion powder, and that's to the both of these. I did decide that it was going to be a table bread. Could be a sandwich bread or whatever, but that I didn't necessarily want another dessert bread like I did the other week. So this is just, I love doing this. So yeah, it's got to finish its rise. And I'm seeing that I've got maybe about another 40 minutes for this to sit and rise, as it will. And so, yeah, we'll see what's up. All right, so let's check this out. I still have 27 minutes left on my timer for that hour and 10 minutes that I talked about. But as we can see, there's a little bit of a rising happening. And where I let this rise was inside of the oven, and I had the light on that I have here, like a range top light that I have on. I had the oven light on. Yeah, when you are looking at this, and the reason why I didn't mind putting the herbs on is you actually can see the separation between the nodules that I've cut onto the loaves. And yeah, so, honestly, the one that I thought was going to be less trouble actually is getting a little bit more rise than this, but they're both going to do fine. They're both going to do fine. Where are we? We're about 25 minutes out from me popping these bad boys in the oven. I don't think that it's going to rise much more than it is now, but I've set the timer. I'm going to let it run out. A little patience, and this is good. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bread. I want to say, where am I going to do it? Maybe, maybe I want to take it to about 425-ish or whatever. 400 approximately, give or take. You need to know your oven. Yeah, so, but what I wanted to do in this particular video is I wanted to show the texture. There should be a slight, it should almost look like skin or something like that. What's going to happen is I'm going to sweat this dough. After, say, 25 minutes of this resting like this, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in the oven. I'm going to put it in the oven. I'm going to let it preheat up to 200. And I'm just going to slowly, maybe I'll just do it even a little less than 200. What I want to do is I'm going to slowly add some steam. When that happens, a little bit of the heat, just a slight bit of heat is going to pull some moisture in the form of steam out of this dough, and that's going to maybe add a little firmness to the crust, and we'll get kind of a hard firmy crust that's going to hold form when I go to break apart or cut into this bread, versus maybe a soft bread that has like a soft crust so that when you cut into it may tear a little bit more easily. Like I said, I'm working this in the style of an artisan form. If these were in loaves, we would have the side of the loaf uh, pushing this dough up. Uh, but because we're doing artisan style laying out like this, and round table loaves, what we have is when we do this, these loaves are going to like, yes, rise up, but they're also going to spread out in various directions also. That's why there's a little bit of space in between them. Started out being more space, but this dough really has increased in volume. And I know that when I put it into the oven and I bake it, and I'll need to bake it at 45 minutes to an hour, just kind of like watching it. I want to sweat it for probably a good 20 minutes, and then what I will do after I sweat the dough, then what I will do is I will actually turn it up to temperature, perhaps 400-ish or whatever, and looking at where I am, I'm probably going to go ahead and end this video now, and then I will post it, and then I will come back and I will post a second part to the video in which, I'll show you the finished product and how it works with some bread. But I won't be eating until much later tonight. So if you want to see this, then what you'll do is you'll probably end up waiting until sometime around midnight before I show you what the bread is, because I will actually have to bake the bread, and then I'll have to take the bread out, and you've got to let the bread really rest. Even as we're talking, I see this little nodule here. It's kind of separating a little bit. So I think what happened was, in this particular loaf, I noticed there was a dry bit on the inside, and I did rework both of the doughs, but it's great. Actually, it's a matter of perspective, because when I turn it this way, I'm thinking that's bigger. Now this looks bigger, so it may just be a matter of perspective. But yeah, these are both looking good. That's the artist in me, 1 point per perspective, and I'm terrible. I can actually create some bits of art, but it's either all or nothing for me. If I don't create something that I'm just like in love with, and then it's like, just throw it away, screw it. So yeah, we're getting some great rise out of this. So this is wonderful. You want it to be, like, when you touch it, you don't want it to be, at this point, once it's risen, you don't want it to be sticky. You want it to feel dry. But if I were to knead this some more and everything, then what would happen is we'd see the wetness on the inside, but we don't want to do that because I've already put the seasoning on here. And what would happen is the seasoning would go inside of the dough, and it would end up drying the dough out. There's a lot of, powders and things like that that would absorb the moisture from inside of the bread. So chemically, we don't want to do that. There's already enough salt in the baking powder products that I've added the baking powder, and then there was also a baking powder element in the self-rising flour to begin with, so we don't want to overly do anything. This is great. So I'm really, really happy. Really, really happy all the way around. So I'm going to post this, and then I'll come back with the finished product. After it bakes, I've got to let it rest, so it will be closer to midnight, but you will see it. Okay, love you guys. Have a good night.